fun to be in this beautiful building. Derek mentioned that I am a psychologist, and while we have some similar constructs in our field, collaborative research really hasn't been a part of the literature. And in fact, I often tell people that I can remember the moment that I first started thinking about collaboration in some kind of a methodical or serious or somewhat scientific manner. And it was actually when Yahoo's CEO called her workforce back to the office. This was 2013, and her internal memo read something like this: to become the absolute best place to work, communication and collaboration will be important, so we need to be working side by side. Well, you know what? It's not really my place to decide whether that was a good or a bad decision, right? First of all, I'm very biased. I work for a company that supports a robust video conferencing solution. And secondly, you know, her kind of decisions are just really, really far above my pay grade. But I was intrigued with the action, right? I was intrigued with the importance she was placing on the construct. And I was intrigued because she made the distinction between communication and collaboration, all right? They were different enough somehow to kind of warrant that conjunction and. And I guess when you're intrigued, right, your attention is heightened, and so you start to notice stuff. And I started noticing how frequently collaboration was mentioned in business literature, in the journals, in the articles, you know, and among the community. And I started noticing how frequently collaboration appeared as a variable of interest in some of the data summaries that I read, the surveys. And you know, almost always collaboration was mentioned as a variable correlated with success. All right, so collaboration was a good thing. Some of you may have seen the Salesforce data, right? 96% of the executives believe that failures were caused by ineffective or lack of effective collaboration. IBM's C-suite survey here noted that collaboration was one of the top 5 factors that differentiated financial outperformers from the rest of the pack. And you know, looking at data like that, I couldn't help but wonder, did all of these executives have the same thing in mind when they answered that question about collaboration? Were they all equally comfortable with what the researcher meant when they put the word collaboration into the survey? And yet at the same time, I figured that if someone ever walked up to me and said, "Stephanie, do you think collaboration is important for business success?" Yeah, I would have said yes, right? That's like saying, should people talk to one another in your organization? Or is it good to share details with your work colleagues, right? In fact, is it good to share it all? And should you be nice to puppies? And who could say no to something like this question? Kind of makes you wonder about that 4% up there, doesn't it? Those little bleeping puppy kickers, probably. But, you know, I honestly think it's a worthy question to pose, this how well we're mutually understanding this construct collaboration. Because, honestly, if I'm not thinking about collaboration the same way they're thinking about collaboration, how effective is that data? How helpful is that to me and to my organization? So I think gaining clarity around this construct really is fundamentally very important, which is why we slated 10 or 15 minutes to talk about these kind of higher level considerations and observations. All right, so like a lot of people today probably, when I seek definitional clarity, what do? Well, you go to the internet, and that was really less than satisfying. Go ahead and try it sometime. But what kept happening to me was this visual. It was in my brain. It was what I considered, I think, collaboration to be, and I just thought I'd share it with you real quickly. If I can get this to work.
Those CO2 levels are going to be getting toxic.
Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we got to come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Better get some coffee going, too.
You know, most people talk about when Tom Hanks says, "Houston, we have a problem." You know, my favorite line in that whole movie is just this one: "Okay, let's build a filter." So, all right, in addition to learning from our family's movie collection, I also did seek out some wisdom from the thought leaders. And it was interesting that it wasn't really a definition of collaboration that they provided me that I found insightful. It was more the distinctions they were making among the various constructs that I thought was kind of enlightening. So I was reading stuff like this. Collaboration isn't the same thing as teamwork. Just realized I'm speaking to this microphone. Just because you're sitting together doesn't mean you're collaborating. Cooperation is different from coordination, which is different from collaboration. Wow. They say collaboration is necessary when you have a problem that is unique, right? It's new, it's different. They say collaboration is necessary when it's assumed that the collective or shared insights of other people is necessary and indeed required to solve the problem. So basically, netting it out, collaboration is when people come together to create something new in support of a shared vision. Okay, and the thought leader types say that the two defining elements there are new and shared. So again, their point is that sometimes all you really need to do is cooperate. All right, so you just need people to come together, and we're going to share some information, maybe share some resources, right? But nothing new needs to come of it. Or sometimes, though, something new may need to come of it, but you really don't need all of us. You just need to bring in one person, maybe an expert, a thought leader, right? And when that happens, it's just a coordinated, unidirectional conveyance of information. Well, the bottom line, the key point that these thought leaders were making is that you don't always have to collaborate, all right? Sometimes, in fact, it's not even the best thing to do or the right thing to do. Without question, my greatest surprise in my research is that bad collaboration is worse than no collaboration. This is actually Morton Henson. He co-authored Great by Choice with Jim Collins, you know, who did the Good to Great book. So what does he mean by bad collaboration? Well, basically he means that you shouldn't have been collaborating in the first place, right? So too often, a business leader asks, how can we get people to collaborate more? Well, that's really the wrong question. It should be, will collaboration on this project create or destroy value? In fact, to collaborate well is to know when not to do it. Suffice it to say that the people who study good and effective collaboration anyway focus a lot on getting a really clear picture of what the end game is. Okay, they focus a lot on what's the desired outcome of the moment that people get together. And why might any of this matter to us here today? Well, there's an awful lot of technology on this floor, right? And I think it's important to remember that when people buy technology, they're not just buying it for the sake of buying technology, right? They're buying it because they believe the technology will help them achieve something. They believe that the technology is going to help them do something, right? It's going to help them do something more or less or better or differently. Right? They assume the technology is going to help them change a status quo. That status quo could be a little tiny organizational tweak in a habit, or sometimes it could be a profound transformative overhaul. But either way, the desired end game requires some kind of status quo. It requires a change so that profits will increase, expenses will decrease. Maybe a learning pedagogy will be flipped so that students become more engaged. Maybe a branding image gets changed so that talent can be attracted or talent can be retained. Carbon footprint gets minimized, right? Maybe just meetings have to run more efficiently. Or maybe there's a desire for customers to view the interaction with client services as being more compassionate. Most typically, however, I think at least our research certainly supports this, the end game involves some kind of desire for a competitive edge. Right? And I think that's why those of us who are creating, designing, selling, buying, using all of these wonderful technology solutions really need to keep in mind that end game. You know, these collaborative solutions that Blaine's going to talk to us in a few minutes about, and the collaborative spaces that Sam's going to talk about here in a minute, they all need to support that end game. And in fact, as a company who supports technology solutions that are designed to empower communication strategies and communication vision, we really believe increasingly that we're going to need to have to show if that change in status quo occurred. Because organizational leadership is going to begin demanding more and more evidence of how those technology investments supported their specific initiatives. It's become a big area of focus for our company. We're proactively seeking to identify key metrics, and we're working on ways to hopefully make it easier to measurably demonstrate, right, the value of our clients' technology solutions. Having said that, I'll go on record as saying it ain't as easy as it maybe used to be. You know, when there used to be a projector and a screen in a room, we could demonstrate measurable value to clients by noting things like, well, 100% of the time when you flipped the switch, it came on, so your meetings began on time. You know, there's measurable value in that. Or we could say, these new projector lamps last 45% longer, and therefore on an annual basis, you'll save X number of dollars. You know, that's value that we can really demonstrate, that we could show. And those are worthy metrics. They certainly are. But if you think about them, they often highlight value based on cost saving, right? They don't necessarily highlight or emphasize any business growth. But we're in a new realm now. These new technologies can expand a client's reach. These new technologies can help bring products to market faster. They can accelerate decision making, right? So these new technologies are much more poised to grow business. Attaching metrics to these new technology solutions, however, these ones that enable these business-enhancing end games, I think it will require us to think a little differently. First of all, as I already said, it's really hard to measure something that we're not all defining the same way. And secondly, and this relates specifically to collaborative technology, the metrics that I think they're going to be more complicated in this area because collaborative behavior is really a function of several things, maybe only one of which is the technology and the space design. Right? We've talked about a few. I mentioned the importance of what the end game is of the meeting. We also know from the research that the facilitation of a collaborative meeting is critical to its success. We learned from the MIT Center on Collective Intelligence that it also matters who you bring in to the collaborative moment, right? They go on record as saying things like some groups are collaboratively more intelligent or less intelligent, and it's not always a function of just adding up the IQs in the room, okay? When we come together, something different happens. I think what's going to become more and more important to us as an industry is to become aware of, and I might even invite us to become aggressive in our approach to understand some of the other factors that are involved, all right, in a successful collaborative environment. Because when we do that, when we begin to understand these other variables in addition to our technology solutions and space design, when we begin to understand this, we're going to be better poised to help people measurably move their organizations from point A to point B, right? And then we can help them achieve their end goal. So as we sit on the front end of 2016 in this beautiful venue, all of you duly waiting for happy hour, I know that's what the fuss is all about, right? We know the potential that these collaborative solutions have, and we're just very excited to get them into organizations so that we can measure them, document them, and celebrate them. I'm excited to learn some more from Sam, so I thank you for your kind attention, and I'll pass off the mic. Thank you.